You're failing at your own life. No one respects you. Your job is dull, your body is weak, and every day feels like a meaningless loop. But this isn't society's fault. It's not the economy's fault. It's your fault. You can keep blaming others, you can keep complaining, or you can change right now. But how? Stoicism holds the answer. The 10 Stoic principles I'm about to share will help you surpass everyone around you, master your emotions, take 100% responsibility, and become the strongest version of yourself. If you're not ready for brutal truth, turn off this video now. But if you have the guts to change, watch until the end. Because this might be the moment that defines your life. If you feel the positive energy, don't forget to like this video and share a meaningful comment. Mike, 45, once believed he had potential, but years passed and all he had were failures. Overweight, bank account empty, career going nowhere. Yet instead of changing, he blamed everything: the economy, his boss, his ex-wife, even his age. Every night he sat on the couch, drinking beer, scrolling through the news, convincing himself, everything is against me. Then at a high school reunion, he met Jake, a former friend who had once struggled like him but was now successful. Jake looked at him for a long moment and said, "You used to be relentless. You would try anything. Now, you just sit here and complain?" Mike got angry, but he couldn't argue. Jake was right. He had spent his entire life looking for reasons not to act. And as Jake walked away, he said something that sent chills down Mike's spine. "No one cares about your excuses. Only results matter." That night, Mike lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, realizing the truth. No one was coming to save him. Either he changed or he would keep sinking. The next morning, instead of hitting snooze like always, he forced himself out of bed and exercised. It wasn't a perfect workout, but for the first time in years, he took action instead of making excuses. The next day, Mike woke up sore. His body ached from the first workout in years. His brain immediately tried to make excuses. "I'm too old for this. No one cares if I quit." But then he remembered Jake's words. "No one cares about your excuses. Only results matter." Mike dragged himself in front of the mirror. The man staring back at him wasn't a victim. Not of the economy, not of his age, not of his ex-wife. He had let himself slip. And if it was his fault, that meant he had the power to fix it. Instead of whining about his boring job, he applied to 3 new companies. Instead of blaming genetics for his beer belly, he walked 2 miles around the neighborhood. He realized that his health, his finances, and his relationships were all the result of his own choices. That night, for the first time in years, he didn't drink beer. He didn't spend hours scrolling through social media, jealous of other people's success. Instead, he sat down and made a plan for tomorrow. Mike understood that change wouldn't happen overnight, but small actions today would define who he would become a year from now. And this time, he wasn't backing down. A week into his transformation, Mike started to feel the real effects of change. He woke up earlier, trained consistently, and ate healthier. But life doesn't slow down just because you're trying to improve. That day at the office, his younger boss, the guy running the whole operation, called him out in front of his colleagues. "Your reports are too slow. If you don't improve, I'll find someone who will." The old Mike would have felt insulted. He would have spent the rest of the day fuming, thinking about how unfairly he was treated, how he deserved more respect. But this time, he simply took a deep breath and replied, "I'll do better." No excuses, no anger, just action. On his way home, he didn't react to the annoyed glare from his ex-wife when he picked up his son. She couldn't make him angry unless he allowed it. That night, he picked up an old book Jake had given him on Stoic philosophy. One sentence hit him hard: "No one can hurt you with words unless you let them." Mike realized that insults, rejection, or criticism only have power if he gives them power. From now on, he would only focus on what he could control: himself. If this video made you think, hit like now, comment below. How have you applied Stoicism in your life? Stoic success, unbreakable mindset, total control. One afternoon, while out for a run, Mike got a call from his sister. His father had suffered a heart attack. He rushed to the hospital. When he arrived, the doctor told him his father had survived, but just barely. His health was declining fast. Standing by the hospital bed, watching his father weak, surrounded by machines, Mike was struck by a brutal truth. Death is inevitable. The only question is, how will I live before it happens? He remembered his father as a younger man, a strong, hard-working person, but also someone who always postponed the important things. His father once said he wanted to travel to Europe. He wanted to open a small woodworking shop after retirement. He wanted to spend more time with his kids. But there was always tomorrow. Now, tomorrow no longer existed. As Mike walked out of the hospital, one thought haunted him. I don't want to die with unfinished dreams. If tomorrow were his last day, could he be proud of his life? That night, he made a list. No more waiting. No more excuses. No more waiting for the perfect time. Life is happening right now, and he wasn't going to waste another second. After the shock at the hospital, Mike returned to his daily life, but this time, emotions no longer controlled him. Early in the morning, when his alarm rang, his mind immediately tried to negotiate. I'm too tired. It's cold. Yesterday's workout was enough. But he didn't argue with himself anymore. He got up, got dressed, and walked out the door without thinking. At work, a younger colleague was promoted instead of him. Years ago, Mike would have been furious, bitter, convinced life was unfair. But this time, he didn't react emotionally. Instead, he spent 15 minutes analyzing himself. Did he perform at his best? No. Had he actively learned new skills? Not much. Could he change that? Absolutely. Instead of being angry, he decided to improve. Not for anyone else, for himself. That evening, his ex-wife sent him a long, angry message about him picking up their son late. Before, he would have wasted the entire night arguing. This time, he simply replied, I understand, it won't happen again. Mike no longer reacted based on emotions, he acted based on what was right. And that's the difference between a strong man and a weak one. One freezing winter morning, while out for a run, a sharp pain shot through Mike's knee. His body protested. You're too old. Why put yourself through this? He could have easily gone back to bed, made himself a hot coffee, and told himself he deserved a rest. But then he remembered his father in the hospital. A once strong man, now weak because he had avoided hardship for too long. Mike clenched his fists. Pain wasn't the enemy, it was a sign of growth. If he wanted to change, he had to push through it, not run from it. At work, another challenge hit. A project he was leading faced a major crisis. In the past, he would have blamed others, complained, and said, it's not my fault. Now, he took control. He spent 2 intense days fixing the issue, and when it was done, he had saved the project and impressed upper management. That evening, his 14-year-old son complained about his math homework being too hard. Mike simply smiled and said, if it were easy, you wouldn't learn anything. Hardship isn't bad, it's what makes you stronger. Mike wasn't just changing himself, he was teaching his son the mindset of a real man. On a Friday night, Mike walked into a bar with some old colleagues. Laughter, loud music, and the scent of alcohol filled the air. Someone shoved a glass of whiskey into his hand. Before, Mike would have downed it without thinking. But now, he knew he couldn't control people offering him drinks. But he could control his response. He put the glass down and smiled. I've quit drinking. His friends laughed, mocked him, but he didn't care. They could laugh. They could judge. That was their problem. He only focused on what he could control, his choices. At work, the same mindset applied. A major project he had worked on was suddenly put on hold due to an executive decision. His colleagues were furious, complaining. Mike didn't waste time whining. He simply asked himself, what can I do now? When you focus only on what you can control, you stop being a victim of life and become the captain of your own ship. One day, Mike stood in his bedroom, staring at a closet full of clothes he never wore. He realized something. His life was just as cluttered as his closet. So he started cleaning. Old clothes, unused electronics, even mementos from his failed marriage. He got rid of them all. It's easier to remove clutter from your home than from your life. He opened his contact list. How many of these people actually helped him grow? The drinking buddies, the chronic complainers, the ones who never took action, he cut them out. He examined his daily schedule. Every minute wasted on social media, mindless TV, or negative news was a minute he would never get back. Mike understood something profound. Everything he owned, his possessions, relationships, and habits, either pushed him forward or held him back. He chose to keep only what truly mattered. After 6 months of change, Mike felt like a different person. He woke up early, exercised regularly, ate healthily, and worked with discipline. Everything seemed to be getting better. Then one day, reality hit him like a punch in the face. Mike applied for a managerial position, a job he had been preparing for over the past 3 months. He worked harder than ever, handled major projects, and put in the effort to prove his value. But when the promotion list was announced, his name wasn't on it. The one who got the job was a younger, less experienced colleague. Anger and frustration surged inside him. In the past, Mike would have given up, drowned his sorrow in alcohol, and cursed fate. But this time, he just stayed silent. He looked in the mirror and asked himself, can I control my boss's decision? No. Can I control my reaction? Absolutely. What can I do next? Do better. Mike didn't complain, didn't whine. He spent the next 2 weeks learning new skills and connecting with more experienced people. A month later, a bigger opportunity came. A competing company offered him a better position with a higher salary. He smiled. Failure is not the end. It's just a test to see if you are worthy of something greater. Six months ago, Mike was a failure. Overweight, depressed, stuck in life. Now he looked in the mirror and saw a different man. He no longer drank to escape life. He no longer complained about things he couldn't control. He no longer feared failure. But he also knew one thing. The battle wasn't over. Life has no pause button. You're stronger today. Good. But if you stop, tomorrow you will be weak again. The next morning, the alarm rang at 5 a.m. Mike opened his eyes, the soreness from yesterday's workout still lingering. He could stay in bed. No one was forcing him to get up. No one cared if he quit. But he wasn't doing this for anyone else. He was doing it for himself. He got up, tied his shoelaces, stepped outside. The cold morning air hit his face, but he didn't care. Mike understood that the world only respects those who fight, not those who complain. And he would never stop fighting. Mike was not a special person. He had no better starting point than anyone else. No extraordinary talent, no stroke of luck that turned his life around. But he did one thing that most men fail to do. He took responsibility and acted. Life doesn't care how tired you are, what your past looks like, or who has treated you unfairly. The world only looks at results. You can keep complaining, keep blaming others, keep making excuses, or you can stand up and do what needs to be done. There will be days when you don't want to keep going. There will be failures that make you want to quit. But no one is coming to save you. No hero will appear. No miraculous moment will change your life overnight. There is only you, every day, every decision, every small action that makes the difference. In the end, you have 2 choices. Keep living an average life or become a man even you would respect. The decision is yours. Thank you for being here. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, turn on notifications, and like this video. Don't forget to leave a comment so we can spread positivity together.